We'll fast forward through this. And then head straight out. So the Petro route does a slightly different Geisel greens route to usual. Other routes before this would have you go outside, use the Geisels, get the Chocobo, and come back in and buy some Geisel greens. This route doesn't do that anymore, and instead picks up Geisels from around the world that it needs to use during the route. Hello, Bitbot. So we're going to come out of here, and we're going to step a couple just down to the tracks. Like this. I'll do a little save state. So the optimal way to do this menu is go up, round to order, put Freya in the front row, come to equip, go to equips, optimize, equip, hold press up to get to your accessory, coral ring, leather shirt, press square to get to your equips on your abilities. You can go undead killer, and if you press down right, it will take you straight to man eater. You come out of this and press R1. Bird killer, R1, down, level up. Circle to come back out. Finally up to items, and then down 1, X. Use the Geisels. So that's the fewest amount of inputs that I've found to do that menu. And you ride your chicken all the way up to here. You probably want to park a little bit closer, but I'm brave. You're home. Welcome home, dude. You fixed an issue that took you full last 2 days to fix? What the fuck? What were you doing? Okay, so Gizamaluke's Grotto. D-pad or analog, this is one of the easy screens for you to acquire an encounter check skip on without worrying too much. So the way that I do this one is you hold upright to about here, and then hold right. And then you want to walk for the last little bit and talk to him from as far away as possible. As long as you do that, you shouldn't have much of a problem skipping this check. Then once you've done and you've taken his bell off him, you want to proceed left. Oh, we got it anyway. Of course we did. And let's try that again. So don't forget, don't be afraid to use your walk here to like get it nice and precise. Obviously, it's Final Fantasy 9. Like, it doesn't stop you from getting the checks before it. And then when you get around that corner, just hold up. So now we're safe. We're safe. Once you've reached this door, if you spoke to him from a decent distance away, we can't get any more encounter checks. If you go straight up to the guy and talk to him, and then do this, you can actually get a check after the door, which can be really, really frustrating. There is also, for newer players that are less confident with dealing with random encounters, you can also choose to do your menu that we did outside here. If you do it here whilst doing that encounter check skip part, then you'll have a dagger on Zidane up until this moment. If you get into any random battles, you'll be able to flee. If you do get into any random battles and you've done the menu where I did it a moment ago, it's worth noting a few things. The only things that you can run into are skeletons and hornets. Freya and Zidane both kill hornets in one attack with the ogre and the partisan equipped with the menu done. If you don't do the menu, you're relying on being able to use flee. If Zidane becomes enraged, you can get really, really stuck really quickly, and I would recommend using Freya to dispatch enemies while having Vivi constantly heal, while also always going for flee checks. It can get really messy. So both options have their downsides, but using the dagger will be safer more often than not. If you have the ogre on, you'll have a hard time dying unless it's a back attack and you keep taking flee damage or something like that. Trident? Yes. Is that what she has on here? I don't remember. Javelin. Sorry. Whatever she has, her basic weapon. Yeah, you want to just try and get out of the fight as quickly as you can. Don't worry about like people dying if it means finishing the fight. And if you run into a skeleton, Freya can't kill them in one hit with a basic attack, nor can Vivi kill them with magic. But you can throw high potions on them, and the high potions will kill them in one attack. So Zidane will one-shot everything as long as he has the Ogre equipped and all of his abilities equipped. Freya can only kill the Hornets in one attack, and Vivi can help out by either healing or throwing high potions on skeletons. Those are your options, really, and those are the only things you'll fight in this screen. So, there are 2 forced encounters in this room. Well, 1 forced encounter, and then another one that we opt to take, because it makes it a lot easier to manage this room. Zidane can ATD weight these guys and also kill them in 1 attack. So we're going to be relying on that in order to kill these monsters nice and quickly. So we've noticed that one's gone first. I'm going to really quickly use Zidane to attack the one on the bottom. So I'm going to ATD weight Zidane through here. Now, because Vivi has gone down, I actually want him to get some experience here. I would like him to level up. It's quite important that he gets some experience before Gizamaluke, or else he becomes extremely flimsy. It also helps contribute towards his entire EXP pool for Hill Gigas in Dis 2. So if he goes down, you can use Freya's turn here to pick him back up. And that means that we don't need to do a menu in a moment as well. So we'll get a flea cancel here, and we'll get Zidane through. And we'll get rid of this next Black Mage. So if they target Zidane and they deal damage to Zidane, I would recommend healing. Or using Freya's turn to heal Zidane up. Or something like that. You really don't want to be going into these fights with a wounded Zidane. That's the core thing to take away. Also, when you get to about here, you stop getting encounter checks. You start getting encounter checks, sorry. But what you can do is you can either run straight towards the Black Mage, or you can run about halfway and have him come to you, which will decide where you get your encounter checks in this room. So I'm going to go a little bit further, and I'm going to let him come to me. The reason why you may want to have him come to you and get more checks afterwards is because once we've killed this Black Mage, we're going to put the dagger back on, and we'll have access to flee again. So I'm going to hold ATB, flick it really quickly just to make sure no one's having any turns, and then Q it on one that definitely isn't having a turn. So now there's no need for us to use any weights because Zidane's going to have another turn anyway. Perfect, he's healed us for us. We'll Q Zidane, and we'll wait him through just in case he misses. Perfect. Another thing that you can do is if, for whatever reason, they attack you and you don't need to use any healing and you don't need to worry about anything, you can have Freya attack. I would only recommend doing it if you're waiting for Zidane's ATB to fill from empty. So let's say they both have a turn, and then Zidane attacks one of them, and everyone's got good HP, and you don't need to heal or anything like that. You can attack with Freya, and try and go for a critical. They are incredibly rare. I think I've had 2 or 3 at max. The criticals will kill them like most of the time in 1 hit. I think you may sometimes even need Vivi to like finish them off with a basic attack, but it exists. But I would never sacrifice time in order to attempt to go for it because they are so rare. Once this is done, we're going to come out and we're going to instantly do a menu. We're going to heal everyone up to full HP. We're going to go into our equipment for Zidane. We're going to optimize. That's going to put the leather plate and the yellow scarf back onto Zidane for us. And then we're going to manually equip a dagger. We're going to go into our abilities and we're just going to hit Bird Killer. Get that ready for later. And then we're going to proceed. The reason why it's a good idea to put Bird Killer on here rather than later, which is only really relevant for PSX. On PC, you don't really have to worry about putting the dagger back on because the encounter rate is so low. But if you do put the menu on there, the reason why it's better to put his abilities here rather than later is because when we do our menu in a moment, we're going to do some equipment on Zidane, and then we're going to shift over to Vivi. So rather than shifting back to Zidane to put his abilities on, or using his abilities and then shifting back to Zidane to shift to Vivi, we can do it a lot more fluid in this manner. So now we won't need to touch any more abilities until we're finished with Grotto. So head up to grab this chest. You want to be careful with your movement around here. I think if you use analog, you can skip some checks, but smile. Talk to the first Moogle and make sure you say the first option. Then leave. Be sure to tell anyone in your chat room that you don't need to kill Grand Dragons if they're asking you to kill them at this point in the game. And then proceed up to this bell here. So if you're like fairly tight like I was there and like not really moving too irregularly or anything, the first thing that you want to do is hold walk and do a little shimmy like that. That will give you a check. And the reason why that's important is because you need to do a menu here to put the ogre back on. If you put the ogre back on and try and go straight into the grotto, you will get the check that I just forced on myself, and you could give yourself a check with the ogre on, and that's really bad. So we're going to optimize it down here to put the ogre back on, and then we're going to go and give him the leather wrist. The reason why is because we want to make sure that Vivi's got the glass armlet. The glass armlet reduces water damage and allows Vivi to survive water attacks by Gizamaluke. There's no rest for streamers, mate. Hello, welcome in. Okay, so I should have done a save state earlier, really. Once again, unfortunately for Disc 1 learners, this is one of the most complicated fights in the entire goddamn game. What we need to do is get a tent to stick to our boy Gizamaluke as quickly as possible before we start dealing damage. If that doesn't happen, we're going to have to use Soul Blade from Zidane in order to minimize the chance of us getting absolutely killed. So the first ATB is going to come round. I'm going to shift down to 10 and I'm going to use it straight away. I'm then going to straight away hold ATB with Vivi to see what is going on. I don't want to give Gizamaluke any more ATB than he needs. I've noticed it's missed. So I'm going to switch down, and grab another 10 and use it again. Then once again, hold ATB. Right. So I noticed that Gizamaluke was having his turn. So I need to release ATB so that I can start getting ATB on Zidane ready for his next turn. Okay, luckily that didn't kill Vivi. So I switched to Zidane here. Let Vivi have his turn. Perfect. So now we can start fighting him. So you can ATB weight Gizamaluke. It is very sketchy if it's not the first thing that you've done. It's a bit like the way that Marcus was working in our Masked Man and our King Leo encounters. So right now, if I'm incredibly fast, I could potentially Q Zidane's ability, hold ATB with Freya, and try and get an ATB weight off. But it's pretty risky, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to Q him in, and then I'm going to wait and see with Freya, and I'll hold ATB for a moment. And I'm going to see if he's countering us. So I know that that's his counter because his ATB shouldn't be much higher than Zidane's right now. So that was not his turn. That was his counter attack. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this extra time here to attack with Freya. And then I'm going to come back around to Zidane. He got a can't cast. I'm going to attack again. Going to let ATB flow. That's his counter for trancing. Incredible. So his AT. I'm not actually sure. I'm not actually sure if he's got his turn queued right now. So what I'm going to do is once this is done. Yeah, so we've got the can't cast from him there. So I'm going to queue a high potion on him. Which I'm not going to use shift break here. I'm just going to keep using regular attacks. So if you don't trance against Gizamaluke and you have a normal fight with normal attacks, you can count damage. I would recommend counting damage. But another way that you can do this without actually having to count the numbers specifically is you're looking for 5 Zidane attacks and 2 Freya attacks. You want to put the first Freya attack in somewhere where nothing is happening. Now, when you're playing this game for the first couple of times, it can be really hard to gauge when nothing is happening in this fight because of the way counter attacks work. And then your final Freya attack wants to be the final attack that happens in the encounter, unless while you're waiting for Zidane's 5th attack, you have some extra time. I don't really know how much damage we're going to deal with a trance basic attack. Normally you'd use shift break here, but I'm just going to keep it normal. Okay, so I think that was our 3rd attack. And this one will count as our 5th. Okay, whatever. Annoyingly, we've got this trance kind of like at the beginning of the fight, so I'm not... Actually, I guess I could load up my... Let's do another little save state here. I'll see if I can load up a fight where I've not got trance. This is a fight that's going to take some time to like get a good feel for. I would recommend grinding this one to get it down before you feel comfortable with it. It is not easy by any stretch of the mean. I will happily admit that I still make mistakes in this fight, misjudging where his ATB is and things like that. I'll try and do this one in real time and like commentate my thoughts as I'm doing them. Forgive me if I get my words muddled up. So instant ATB, going to cue that with Freya, get that off. As soon as Zidane comes back around, I'm going to hold ATB. And see what it is. If this whiffs, I'm going to... No, sorry. Get Zidane's attacking straight away. He's having his turn here. He's missing. Zidane's going to have his turn. His ATB is going to be just behind Zidane. So he's not queuing here. That is his counter. So he should have his turn here. He's had another can't cast. I'm going to get Zidane in. And then I'm going to put Freya right behind him. So Freya is going to be used to buffer him here. This is his counter attack. And it's missed. Good. And then Freya's going to have her turn. Because that missed, I can queue Zidane here. Freya's ATB is emptied out. I'm going to check for counters. That's his can't cast. That's Zidane's third strike, I think. So now we should be able to get an ATB weight off. So I'm going to defend with VV after I see that there's no counter. Perfect. I'm going to mash X. I should be able to get an extra turn in here. Perfect. I think we need one more Z swing into a Freya attack. So that will be... could be his turn or his counter. I'm going to attack with Zidane here. And then attack with Freya. If anyone goes down in this fight... Oh, huge. So that actually perfectly is the reason why you want to attack with Zidane before you go for Freya's second attack. Because if you crit, you don't need Freya's attack at all. Unfortunately, there is a lot of moving parts in this fight, and there is a lot to take in. But those are the key points that I can think of in this encounter. If anyone goes down in this encounter, there are ways to make up the AP. You need to keep a note of this. You must remember who goes down. If Zidane goes down, the backup I don't believe is actually in Petro's notes. But the backup for your bird killer AP is that when you go to fight Antlion, you need to put the yellow scarf on him over the Germanist boots. And then once you finish that and you're on your way down to the Clayer invasion, you need to put the Germanist boots back on and re-equip alert. I'll try and remember to talk about that when I get to that part of the game. If Freya goes down, you need to make sure that in your Hildegard A1 screen, you'll be putting your bronze armor on. And in your Hildegard A... And then in your menu post-arc, you're putting Iron Helm and Level Up on. Again, I will talk about those when we get to those parts of the game. But because everyone survived, I don't need to worry about any backup AP. Everything's Gucci. What's good, Mac? How you doing? It's a minion fight. It really is. You can ATB weight shift breaks and things like that as well, but it's also worth mentioning that there are strategies where you can back row Zidane and not use tents and try and have him attack Zidane to put him into trance range. I would strongly suggest against it. It is incredibly risky. Trance can just not gain. You can just get killed. You can just lose a shitload of time. Even if you do activate trance after like 2 turns, you're probably not actually saving any time because trance takes ages to activate. Shift break takes ages to come through. You're having to revive Zidane potentially because he's died. You're having to heal him. All these things add up and actually make it far less effective. The most effective way that you can take advantage of trance is by having it activate naturally and by taking advantage of it after the fact.